the New York City marathons in the world. So it's no surprise that every year thousands of people come to participate in it. The race can be grueling, and some runners have even died trying to complete it. But this story isn't about those people. It's about a woman who simply vanished during the 2001 race. Her name was Vanya Sloboda, and she was a 34-year-old professional from Brooklyn. She wasn't much of a runner, but she had trained for months to be able to compete in the marathon. She planned on running the whole way with her boyfriend Javier, waiting for her at the finish line. Now, like every year, the New York City Marathon started out in Staten Island before winding its way through all 5 of the city suburbs. And although there were several aid stations along the route, unlike other marathons, they didn't hand out water or anything else. That's because most of the supplies were given out by spectators. They lined the course and cheered the athletes on. And for the first 20 miles of the race, things were going great for Vanya. Not only was she staying well hydrated, but she was also feeling very energetic. But around mile marker 21, she did something that would cost her everything. As the course made its way across the Queensboro Bridge, the runners could see an aid station right at the end. At this point, Vanya was exhausted. So when she saw the station, she thought she'd stop there to catch her breath and have some water. Unfortunately, by the time she got there, all the water had been taken. She didn't want to waste time waiting around for someone to bring more, though, so she decided to take a shortcut. There was a street just off the course that led to the East River. If she could get down there, she could probably find some water in the building and then make her way back up to the course. That way she could continue running without getting dehydrated. She figured it was only a quarter mile, and she could easily make it back to the track in time. But unfortunately, she never did. Now, at first, this was actually a pretty good plan. Within minutes, she found a fire hydrant, filled up a water bottle, and headed back to the course. Only problem was she didn't realize how disorienting dehydration can be. And by the time she refilled her bottle, she had no idea where she was supposed to go next. She turned left onto a street called 49th Avenue, which quickly became clear wasn't anywhere near the marathon course. She continued walking for a bit before finally spotting a man in a New York City Marathon shirt. He was volunteering and directing runners to the proper course. She asked him for directions, but he was completely confused by her question. He asked her what she was talking about, and she replied that she needed to get to the marathon course. As soon as she said this, though, it became clear that he thought she was crazy. People don't just wander around mid-race unless they're crazy. So he tried to convince her that she should just forget about the race and take a cab home instead. At this point, Vanya realized that she was lost, but she still didn't think it was a big deal. So she told the volunteer that she was sure she could find the course on her own, and she walked away. She continued wandering around for almost 2 hours, passing several parks and streets that looked nothing like the course. At this point, her feet were killing her, so she sat down on a bench and called her boyfriend Javier. She told him that she couldn't find the course and asked him for directions, but once again, the person on the other end of the line had no idea what she was talking about. It wasn't until Vanya repeated herself several times that Javier finally realized what was happening. He had actually finished the race a long time ago and was now waiting for Vanya to cross the finish line. When she told him she was lost, he immediately panicked. He asked her where she was, and she told him that she wasn't sure, but she could see a baseball stadium nearby. Javier knew exactly where she was at this point, and he told her to stay put while he went to find her. He called her several times over the next hour, but she never picked up. At first, he assumed that she had fallen asleep, but when she still had to and answered his calls, by the time he got to the spot where she was supposed to be, he knew something was wrong. He ran over to a cop and explained that his girlfriend was lost and possibly dehydrated. But the officer told him that they couldn't do anything about it. There were thousands of people running the race, and they were already stretched pretty thin. He suggested that Javier call 911, but he knew that if he did, the dispatcher would most likely tell him the same thing. So he refused. Instead, he continued searching for Vanya, but it didn't take him long to realize that she was nowhere to be seen. This was when Javier finally called the cops and reported his girlfriend missing. Unfortunately, by the time they got involved, It was too late. Her backpack was later found near the bridge, but aside from that, there were no signs of Vanya anywhere. Cops searched the entire area, but after several hours, they had to call it quits. For the next few days, Javier and her family handed out flyers and waited for news, but nobody had seen her. Eventually, they had to accept the harsh reality. Vanya was gone and might never be seen again. But what happened to her? Well, that's still a mystery. After her disappearance, cops searched the area where she was last seen, but they never found any trace of her. They even brought in cadaver dogs, but those searches proved negative as well. The case went cold after just a few weeks, and to this day, nobody knows what really happened to her. Did she wander into a dark part of town and get attacked? Or maybe she was kidnapped by a stranger. Maybe she stumbled into a building and accidentally locked herself inside. Whatever the case, her disappearance remains a total mystery. Although it was never proven that she was dead, her family had a funeral for her and buried her alive. They didn't want to keep holding on to the hope that she'd be found alive, especially since it had already been years. Sadly, they might never know if she is out there somewhere or if she is resting in peace in some unknown part of the city. Now, you'll definitely want to watch what really happens to your body after you die. Or check out this video instead.